Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered why, one year your town gets absolutely buried in record-breaking rain, and then the next it hardly rains a drop? Well, today we are unpacking a massive big idea from the heroesmartacademy series. We're going to look at how shifting ocean temperatures miles and miles away can completely rewrite global weather patterns. As we dive into the earth science presented in our source material today, you're going to see just how beautifully interconnected our whole planet really is.
But before we get into the really complex science of ocean currents, the source material actually establishes this great zoomed-out perspective using the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." The curriculum highlights this as a pretty profound observation. It posits that the Earth isn't just random, right? It operates on this incredible rhythmic clock designed to create distinct seasons of both drought and flooding.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Part 1 is the rhythm of the oceans. Part 2, El Niño versus La Niña. Part 3 is real-world weather impacts. And finally, Part 4, education, morality, and peace.
Part 1, the rhythm of the oceans.
So understanding these oceanic rhythms is absolutely crucial if we want to prepare for extreme weather. Enter ENSO. That stands for the El Niño Southern Oscillation. Now, whenever you hear that word oscillation, I want you to picture this giant pendulum just swinging back and forth. ENSO is the overarching cycle of changing ocean temperatures and shifting trade winds, specifically out in the Pacific Ocean. Actually, it's these shifting winds that really drive the ocean changes. And by monitoring these temperatures and winds closely, scientists can predict exactly when this massive pendulum is going to swing. That gives us a much-needed heads-up when global weather shifts are about to happen.
Moving on to Part 2, El Niño versus La Niña.
These are the two dominant, totally opposing phases of the ENSO cycle. You can kind of think of it as a heavyweight matchup. When that pendulum swings all the way to one side, bam, we get El Niño. During an El Niño event, this massive band of unusually warm ocean water shifts eastward across the Pacific. It's like a heavy, warm blanket being pulled across the sea, and that immense heat completely disrupts normal wind patterns. But when the pendulum swings the other way, we get La Niña. And La Niña is the sharp, brisk opposite. Instead of warming, unusually cooler water pools heavily right there in the eastern Pacific. So warm water moving east versus cold water pooling in the east. Two completely opposite physical triggers.
And because the ocean triggers are totally opposite, the weather results are opposite too. Let's see how this plays out in the U.S. During that warm El Niño phase, the southern states get much wetter winters, while the north experiences unusually warm temperatures. But when that pendulum swings to the cold La Niña, everything flips. Literally the whole shebang. We suddenly see colder winters overall, a really terrifying increase in Atlantic hurricanes, and the southern U.S., which was just getting soaked, remember, now suffers through severe drought. It is just a stunning display of cause and effect.
All right, Part 3, real-world weather impacts.
So, what actually happens to specific communities when these phases strike the real world? Well, let's look at Texas. During an El Niño phase, the shifting ocean temperatures literally move the jet stream. That's the fast-flowing river of air high up in our atmosphere. This shift acts like a giant fire hose, causing heavy, destructive rain and massive flooding. Conversely, during a La Niña phase, the broader southern U.S. faces a totally different threat. The rain just shuts off. Farmers face severe crop-killing droughts, while coastal communities have to brace for incredibly active, dangerous hurricanes in the Atlantic. Meanwhile, down in Peru, El Niño warms the coastal waters. This kills off local fish populations, delivering a really devastating economic hit to fishermen, while simultaneously bringing heavy rains that trigger deadly mudslides. It's intense.
But the absolutely crucial point here is this. Why does understanding ENSO actually matter to you and me? Well, we study this so we can help farmers know exactly what crops to plant to survive a coming drought. We study this so engineers can build better drainage to protect our cities from floods. We study this to improve hurricane safety and ultimately save lives. The core purpose of learning this science, as highlighted by our source material, is to help people prepare for extreme weather and to respond to God's shifting seasons wisely and responsibly.
Which brings us to Part 4, education, morality, and peace.
This is really the core philosophy of the heroesmartacademy Godly Learners series. We've learned some incredible earth science today, right? But how does the curriculum say that shapes who we are actually becoming as people? The text asks a really profound question. What is the point of being supposedly educated if we just continue to make bad choices that hurt ourselves and others? I mean, you could memorize every single fact about El Niño and La Niña. You could be the smartest scientist in the room, but the source argues that if you lack kindness, act selfishly, or ignore moral principles, Your academic education isn't going to stop you from causing pain. It essentially views education without biblical morality as a super powerful engine with no steering wheel. Eventually, you're going to crash.
The curriculum intertwines this science with a promise found in Romans chapter 8, verses 6 and 7. It's a promise of peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. The text suggests that combining a hard-earned academic education with a spiritually focused, moral mind turns all those smarts into true wisdom, and that brings true peace. So, as you look out at the changing seasons and those vast oceans this week, the big takeaway from this series is pretty clear. Are you just filling your head with facts, or are you actively seeking the wisdom to use that education well? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.